Hi guys, welcome to my third video on my new astrology channel name. So basically today I thought the last two videos I've kind of been quite generic. The topics have been, ones that are fairly easy to talk about and they've been quite broad and aimed at, all of the signs in the whole zodiac, and then obviously each part has been dedicated to one specific sign, explaining how I think they fall on the scale. For obviously the first was just my opinions of all the signs overall, the second being which tend to be more judgmental. But I haven't touched like in more detail on any one specific sign yet. So I haven't actually planned that much for this video either, to be honest. I'm not that good with that in general, but I've got to admit that. But I did think I would get a bit more effort into being more detailed with each specific sign and explaining them today in this video. So I thought logically Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, so I thought I would start with them in terms of getting into more detail on each specific, zodiac sign in astrology. So basically, the whole ethos, the whole sort of theme of the Aries character. So first off, touching on astrology, there was four elements. You've got fire, earth, air, and water, and for each of those four elements, you have three signs in each. And with like those three signs in that one element that's dedicated to that one element, when they all meet up together, they form a triangle, which means they are harmonious and they kind of, technically speaking, they got on well because they're a full water triad or a full fire triad, etc. Whatever the case may be. So yeah, that's that obviously. And then also you have three different modes of expression of each element, so that there's one zodiac sign that is one specific mode. In other ways, one sort of specific way of expression of each element in astrology, adding up to the 12 total zodiac signs. So what you basically have is cardinal, fixed, and mutable modes. And cardinal is kind of the first mode, which is meant to cardinate, in other words, kick off and initiate the whole cycle for that specific element in the zodiac cycle. So they don't they're not the ones who have the energy of the element they're paired to present within them all the time. They're the ones who kind of have a baseline energy level which is just kind of neutral. But then under certain circumstances, they can coordinate, in other words, create and initiate this energy within themselves, and then release it to the world. And then that energy, when it is made by them, created and released to the world, is basically the energy of the element they're paired with. So, for example, in this video, I'm talking about Aries. They are the cardinal fire sign. So they are cardinal for the fire element. So they have this baseline level where they are kind of neutral, they're not throwing out too much energy, but then when they do coordinate this energy in high amounts and then they throw it out to the rest of the world, that energy that they are throwing out at that point is the energy of fire because they are cardinal for the fire element. So it's a little complicated, but hopefully I kind of explained adequately there what it kind of is like. And then you have your fixed mode, which is basically they have this energy. It's almost like the cardinal signs throw out and, first create and initiate this energy of the element they're paired with. Then the fixed signs take over and they kind of stabilize the energy. They're a bit more grounded to earth than the others in the triad, the energy triad. So they stabilize the energy so that it doesn't just disappear and dissipate, because with the cardinal sign, they release the energy and then after a while they burn themselves out, basically tire themselves out, and then the energy stops releasing and they go back to their baseline. So the fixed sign will take over to stabilize the energy, stop it from being burnt out, and they kind of also make the energy more stubborn. So it's the least kind of adaptable and changeable form of the energy. It's the most sort of loyal, reliable, but on the negative end, the most stubborn kind of expression of the energy, the least open to compromise. But they're the stabilizers of the energy. They kind of stop the energy from ever dissipating. And then the mutable signs come along and they add the flexibility. So they, similar to the fixed signs, they have that energy of the element they're paired with present inside of them all the time, same as the fixed signs. not the cardinal signs, which only have the energy when they're actively producing it. The rest of the time, it's not even there at all. Like the fixed signs, the mutable signs do have this energy within them constantly for the element they're paired with. But the difference between them and a fixed mode is that the mutable mode is the one who will change and adapt the energy. So they are open to compromise. They will change the energy actively. They are open to adaptation. They're the most adaptable. And they kind of will take other people's opinions into account that they're interacting with, and they're kind of the most popular in a certain sense because they can get on with any other element. So even if in astrology the elements are technically not compatible with each other, say fire and water, they can still manage to compromise and make it work to an extent if they're both mutable because they are kind of adaptable to a high degree, a high extent, so they're able to they're not stubborn, so they are open to change their behavior, even completely if necessary, to enable them to get on better with someone else. So that's like a quick overview of obviously the modes. So sorry, that was quite a went off on quite a tangent there, but I just kind of wanted to explain that. Hopefully, made some sense out of that, and I explained it like in a way that you could understand. So, anyway, so Aries, the first sign of the entire zodiac. So, one, they're a cardinal sign, which means they have this energetic, active, pioneering spirit, which to a degree, every cardinal sign has that as well, because they are given birth to this energy of the element they're paired with, fire in the case of Aries specifically. Um, so yeah, they have this pioneering spirit. Um, they are the first sign of the zodiac too, so they kind of kick off everything. Like everything starts with Aries, basically the whole cycle technically, and as well the whole cycle dies in Pisces technically because they're the last sign, sign 12, and then it's reborn again in Aries. Like the cycle never ends; it just carries on forever and ever. So every time you come to the end of the whole cycle, on the last degree of Pisces, it all dies, and then it's reborn again each time on the first degree of Aries, and it works like that constantly. So Aries, they're cardinal for the fire element, so they don't always have this fire energy, but they have it when they are actively producing it, as I kind of explained, hopefully in an understandable sort of way, relatively speaking, earlier on in this video. So they are highly energetic. They are definitely the most intense fire sign in the expression of the fire because they are the most active in expressing it in a certain sense because they are the cardinal mode for the fire. So they are quite aggressive. They're also ruled by the planet Mars in astrology, which is about aggression, masculine sexuality, this kind of thing. So they are very energetic. Mars is also the sign of physical energy as well, and bravery, this kind of warrior sort of mindset. So they have this sort of stereotypically masculine sort of mindset where they are warriors, they're fighters, the sun is exalted in their sign, so they also have a very strong ego. They really believe in their own abilities. They have a lot of self confidence, although they can, on the downside, be a little bit self centered because they do kind of factor only their opinions into account, and they do listen to others' opinions, but they don't necessarily take them on board because they think that their opinions are the most important and the most accurate and the ones that matter the most because they have this strong self confidence and self belief in themselves. And that's obviously compromised for in their opposite sign of Libra in astrology, which has not enough self confidence and assertiveness, because obviously they're opposite to Aries. Aries has this almost overdone self confidence and assertiveness. They have too much of that, as opposed to their opposite Libra, which has too little of that. So yeah, they are probably the most energetic in a physical sense in terms of physical energy of every other sign in the zodiac. They are definitely their stamina is through the roof. They would be great as athletes, especially sprinters, because their energy is it's a cardinal thing. So when they're releasing this fire, while it's releasing healthily and it hasn't burnt out and they've tired themselves out, they're going to crash because obviously they've tired themselves out releasing too much. But when they first release it and obviously they're not tired yet, they're releasing this fire quite strongly. It's very sudden and it kind of bursts out of them. I liken the kind of character of an Aries when they are coordinating and, creating this fire and throwing it out to the world. They are almost like a firework or even like an explosion from a bomb slash grenade. this concentrated energy of fire. It's very strong, very concentrated, but it doesn't last for too long because it's only the cardinal sign. It's not fixed. So it's not like a bonfire which is going forever, because that's what I would say Leo is, because they're the fixed fire sign. But Aries is more like it's more concentrated, but it's less long lasting. It's like an explosion in a sense. Very, very aggressive when it comes out. So as I say, they would be great for sprinting, because when they get this burst of energy, it comes out very quickly and it is very concentrated. So it's like they are literally like a firecracker is another good word, or like a torch of, like a fiery torch, like in the olden days. If people were lost like in the wild and it was dark, they would light their way with this torch where the firelight would help them see their way forward, because again they have this pioneering spirit. These are all real world examples that you could take to apply to the character of Aries. They are, in my opinion, quite accurate to the Aries character when trying to explain it in a more real world sense of what their energy kind of is as a soul element. So yeah, they have this. They would be great as sprinters. They don't have much endurance though. That's something I will say. So it's like They've got a lot of like energy, but it doesn't last forever, because it's kind of like they're coordinating it so intensely in the heat of the moment. But because of that high level of intensity, it also burns out quickly, and they tire themselves out quickly. And then after that point is reached, they obviously will need a rest. Um, and then they get quite tired actually and crashed out because they need a rest. So they're not the best. Of course, this individual people can defy this characteristic, but they're not really the best, like long distance runners or even like cross country. They're more sort of like, if they're doing sport, they're more this burst of sudden energy. So they would suit more a sprinter rather than a longer distance runner, in my opinion. But they are very sporty in general, very active. All the fire signs are energetic, so they're all very sporty and active people. But Aries especially is the most energetic. They definitely have that sort of athlete mentality. And their physical body is strong enough that they're capable of being an athlete too. They have that stamina and that sort of sense. So yeah, I'm just trying to find real world examples here to explain their kind of character and energy sign. Um, they are definitely very brave, very courageous. They kind of initiate everything in life. They kind of will be very independent, self reliant, and they'll be like, I want to do this new thing, I want to go down this new path in my life, and they will just do it. They will be very brave, they'll have the guts to just go and do whatever they want, start up any new pioneering project, whatever they want to do in their life. And especially in a personal birth chart, to have Mars in Aries in your personal birth chart, which I actually happen to have Mars in Aries in my personal birth chart, which is really good placement, because Mars is comfortable in Aries because it's in its home sign. Um, Therefore it's dignified Mars. So Mars is working at a very strong, capacity. Having Mars in the Aries in your personal birth chart is a very, very good placement for physical energy and stamina. But as I say, it's not necessarily endurance for the long haul. So it's kind of like you would start like a new crazy project, like start up a new business, but then eventually they would just move on to start something else new and not want to carry on what they first started. That's the downside of Aries, especially to have it in Mars in your personal birth chart. It's like, and I can be like that. It's like I'll be quite enthusiastic at the start of something new that I want to do, but then I won't see it through to the end. I'll kind of give up halfway because I want to start something else new. And that's kind of what there is with that. Venus in your personal birth chart to be in Aries is not such a good placement, because Venus actually is detrimented, in other words, in a weakened state in the sign of Aries. It's not completely fallen, like it is in Virgo as a sign. But yeah, it's not great in Aries, Venus, because obviously Venus is about the feminine sexuality, the kind of sensual sort of attraction sort of thing about love, which doesn't work well with Mars, because Mars is more about lust and libido and stamina, physical need needs to be met, kind of love attractiveness sort of thing. And that's a bit, harsh and in your face for Venus is like, and Venus doesn't really like that. They like the slow, steady, romantic sort of be groomed sort of approach to intimacy. So yeah, it's not great to have it in Venus, but it does mean you throw your love out to the world quite energetically if you have Venus Aries, which at least is good. At least you're eager to energetically throw out all the love in your heart toward the whole world, and make that obvious to other people. So that is a good thing with that placement. Mercury in Aries is okay. It just causes you to be a little bit aggressive with speech, toward other people. You can be quite loud in your voice. Don't really think at all before you speak, because that's another thing with Aries energy in general. They do not think before they do something. They can have this capacity to be pretty logical, and they're highly emotional. They just never show you that, but unless they're angry, of course. But it's like otherwise, other emotions they won't really show you very strongly, but they do have them. But they are also very logical. I would say slightly more than emotional, and they are capable to be very like logical. But in the heat of the moment, they're so fast they don't stop to think about, is it the logical course of action before I do it. They just lash out and do it in the heat of the moment, because that's the energy that they've got with cardinal fire. So Aries is typically the type where they'll do something in the heat of the moment, and then they'll think about it logically after they've done it, and then they'll regret that they did it, but in the heat of the moment they just did it anyway because they don't think. So to have that in Mercury in your personal birth chart would make you a bit impulsive with speech. You could upset people with words accidentally, or be too harsh with language accidentally, because you're not very tactful with your language if Mercury is in Aries in your chart. So that's something to say as well. But they're like the main personal placements in your chart that you could have Aries in. Obviously, your Sun Aries is just embodying, your whole character will embody the character of the Aries sign. And when I'm talking about the Aries energy in general in this video, I'm mainly referring to when it's in your Sun sign, because that's obviously when you would embody all those character traits of the Aries. Aries rising is going to make you look to the outside world to be very motivated and driven. You're going to look quite aggressive, you're going to look quite forceful to other people, even if you're not actually an Aries sun and you're not like that in your actual personality. You're going to look like that from others' first impressions of you, because if you have an Aries rising, that's what they'll see first off, because your rising sign, in other words, your external, shallow but first sides that everyone sees when they first get to meet you, when they don't know you very well, is going to be coordinating fire if that is placed in Aries in your chart. You're going to have this determined sort of aura, you're going to have this energetic sort of presence, in terms of your outward appearance. To have your moon in Aries is going to make you perhaps even more impulsive than the sun Aries, because the sun is comfortable in Aries, it's exalted in Aries actually, so it's a comfortable placement for the sun to be in. So it's a bit happier, it's a bit less tense, and therefore you're a bit less impulsive when your sun is placed in Aries in your personal birth chart. When your moon's in Aries, your moon is the moon is the natural ruler of the Cancer sign. So the moon is not at all comfortable actually within the sign of Aries. It's way too impulsive and unpredictable for the moon to be happy. So yeah, what do you call it? So yeah, sorry I got distracted guys for a second. But it's like, yeah, so to have the moon in Aries is kind of even more intense and impulsive. You have this deep inner restlessness because your moon is the deepest part of you, the most hidden private part of you. Others won't necessarily see it on the outside very readily, even if they are very close to you, because the moon is very private, very personal. It's your emotions, your instinctive reactions that is more private. So it's this deeper sort of energy. So to have more subtle but more intense in a certain way. So to have that placed in Aries in your personal birth chart, you're going to be having this very deep inner sense of restlessness, and it's going to be even more impulsive than having it in your sun, because the sun's more comfortable as a planet in that sign compared to how the moon is as a planet in that sign. Also, just to clear up any confusion, I know the Sun and Moon technically aren't planets, but in astrology, the Sun and Moon are counted as planets too for some reason. So, because they still have signs they rule, so yeah. Um, but yeah, as I say, the Moon is not comfortable in the sign of Aries like the Sun is, definitely not. So, to have your Moon Aries, you're going to be quite impulsive, but at least you'll be emotionally honest. You'll always know where you stand. If you're upset, you're going to address your feelings on matters straight away, instantly, and you're not going to hide them either. You're going to be quite open and honest in that sense. But yeah, thanks for listening to this video. I think I've said all I needed to say about this. This is explaining just obviously all of the modes in astrology in general, the elements, and how Aries fits into the overall picture of the zodiac signs. So yeah, I hope you got some sense out of that video, despite my racing thoughts. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye.